Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Breaking Ground, a special closer look event coming to you live from the Pelican Bay Resort on Freeport, Grand Bahama. I'm Aravina Apia. Thanks so much for joining us. Tonight, we are less than 24 hours away from the groundbreaking of the new Freeport Health Campus. The construction of this new state-of-the-art facility is phase one of the government's plans for a brand new hospital and what is expected to be a complete overhaul of this island's healthcare system. Over the course of the next hour, we will hear from the leadership of the Public Hospitals Authority and Grand Bahama Health Services as we explore the challenges and opportunities that come with building a modern, sustainable healthcare system for the island. We will discuss their strategy for improving healthcare delivery and the critical role of partnerships and collaborations in achieving our shared healthcare goals. Joining me now is PHA Chairman Andrew Edwards, PHA's Managing Director Dr. Aubinette Roll, Hospital Administrator at the Rand Memorial Hospital, Jessica Cartwright, and Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Freeman Lockhart. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for being here. So I'd like to start this conversation with where we are, right? So I'm going to start with Ms. Cartwright and Dr. Freeman because you guys are here on Grand Bahama, on the ground every day. Where are we? Can you give us an idea of what the current state of healthcare is on this island?
So thank you for having us. On the island, we are in transformation. There is a lot going on in Grand Bahama Health Services. We are seeking to reinvigorate and to reestablish services that would have been paused as a result of both Dorian and COVID. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, as you mentioned, we are here for our health campus. And so we're going through the whole exercise of understanding what we would like our health system to be in the future and planning towards that. And so it's an exciting time in Grand Bahama Health Services. Clearly, like most systems, we have our challenges, but in terms of the team and where we're going, we are very focused and very excited.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Lockhart, maybe you could speak to some of the specific needs that you guys see here on the island in terms of healthcare requirements. What are people most in need of?
Well, again, thanks for having us. And here on the island, as you can imagine, we are still in a recovery mode. And the hospital before Dorian was at maximum capacity. As a result of Dorian, we lost a bit of the hospital's capacity, and so the capacity right now is less than it was pre-Dorian. Following Dorian, we went into COVID. And COVID saw a time when a lot of the population here, like everywhere else, pretty much stayed away from the hospital. So what we are seeing now is a lot of our chronic cases are coming back, and these are patients who have sat back at home and pretty much, I wouldn't say ignore, but they pretty much just stayed away from the institution. And so as you can imagine, they're coming back in a more severe state than usual. So we are seeing our bed space at maximum capacity for most of the week. And that is one of the main cause for concern for us right now.
Mm-hmm. Now, you've both mentioned both the impact of Hurricane Dorian and obviously COVID-19. What are some of the steps that have been taken by yourself as the hospital administrator, as the chief medical officer? What steps have been taken to sort of revamp the areas that have suffered as a result of those two things, and how are we getting everything back on track?
So there are a number of projects that we're in the middle of that are designed to help us get back on track, as you said. In Dorian, we would have lost some critical infrastructure and capacity to offer services in our theater and other spaces, and so we have gone through an extensive renovation project to make sure that we have some level of support to be able to resume services, and we anticipate in short order, for example, our theaters, we will be in a position to resume additional cases to support the load and the patient demand. We also have other areas like in community where we would have added extended hours to allow individuals who may be at work or may be unable to get to the clinic during normal hours to be able to see a doctor and have their needs met. And so those in a very quick way are some of the items that we're doing to help improve the services to our patients.
How important has, collaboration with other healthcare providers on the island been in terms of meeting sort of the gaps that have existed because of Dorian and because of COVID-19?
Well, Grand Bahama Health Services, we can't survive without our partners. And so we don't provide the full suite of services for our patients. And so, yes, we have a strong partnership with other local health facilities to be able to support what our patient needs are.
Dr. Lockhart, anything to add?
Well, as you may recall, in the immediate aftermath of Hurricane Dorian, when the damages to the hospital were pretty extensive, we reached out to some of the other facilities here on the island, like Sunrise Medical, which housed our patients temporarily until we were able to get back on our feet. So, and even in the aftermath of COVID, lab facilities on the island were quite instrumental in assisting us in assisting and providing care for the people of the community. So, the healthcare system here in Grand Bahama, we pretty much lean on each other, to a very, very large extent.
Okay. I want to rope both the managing director and the chairman into the conversation now. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I think, so far we've sort of focused on the ground here in Grand Bahama. How does what is going on here fit into the overall scope of what the Public Hospitals Authority is doing and where you guys see the vision for healthcare moving forward?
Sure, and thank you for having us this evening. A very exciting evening. So what the PHA is doing now is we're moving in a positive direction. And what do I mean by that? We have just developed a new strategic direction and plan for the PHA. And what we're actually doing now is allowing the public to see us in a different light. So, we say reimagine the PHA. And so what we're doing now is we have changed our vision, and you'll get to see a lot about that. And that's built into what we want to do. We want to shift the focus. We are listening to the patients who come for us for service, as well as listening to the providers of care. And we understand that there are some gaps, but we're moving in a direction to reimagine and to also develop in our plans all of the needs that are needed within the society, and in particular at Grand Bahama. And so we're moving with not only the strategic goals as it relates to infrastructure, but we call it the 4 Ps. And so we're talking about changing our processes, the way that we do things to make sure that they are done properly. Obviously, people are first, and so even though our concentration is on the patients, we are also concentrating on our employees that are stakeholders in this as well. And then we talk about our policies, getting those policies correct, ensuring that we are compliant in all of those areas. And then there's one other P that I'm missing right now. So there's plant. And so the plant is exactly what you're going to see tomorrow, and that's the infrastructural development. And so we're really moving to be able to meet the demands of what the data is actually showing us to be the needs.
I love that you guys are talking about changing sort of the perception of healthcare, because let's be honest, there are some challenges. The headlines are filled with stories from all over the country about, this interaction or that interaction, whether it's at the Rand Hospital or it's at the Princess Margaret Hospital. So what can persons who require or who need to access public health care, what can they hopefully expect to experience, or what sort of change are you hoping that they're going to experience with PHA, this reimagined version of the Public Hospitals Authority that you guys are launching?
Sure. So one of the things we're doing now is we're trying to improve our response to clients. What we do want is a positive impact from the customer to improve the customer experience. So we've done quite a bit of training as it relates to what we call patient advocates. And even today, we have been partnering with external partners internationally to be able to help us with training, so persons understand what are the expectations of patients, what is it that they want. Also, as it relates to that, as we change the image, we're obviously trying to change the attitudes. And so we started with training from leadership all the way down so that it could cascade with the expectations. We do admit, as with every organization, there are some things that we do not do right. However, we are paying keen attention to those and trying to address them, whether they include technology or training or policies or even infrastructure. That is where we are focusing. So the expectation is that they would begin to see a shift in our response to their needs. And when there are complaints, we take them literally and we deal with them and provide a response to the Bahamian people.
Ms. Edwards, anything to add?
Just to add to what the managing director said, well, first of all, I'm just excited to be here and excited about what's going to happen tomorrow and what it really means for Grand Bahama. The island is long overdue, and one of the first, visiting this island shortly after being appointed chairman of the PHA, it was clear that it was not getting the attention and focus from the PHA. That it was sort of everything's happening in Providence, and then there's also places that we manage in Grand Bahama. I think we've tried to change that focus and make sure it's gotten the attention that it's deserved. I think that the staff in particular and the leadership here can attest to the fact that the managing director is here, I think, almost once a week, if not. And so we are giving it the attention it really deserves. It's been neglected for too long, and it's like a sore that's just been festering, and it's really been needing the attention that it's getting now. But to add further, I mean, the focus really now is sort of just doing the heavy lifting, doing the things that may not be as sexy as a groundbreaking, but we are looking at the business model, we're looking at human resources. We've signed 2 new industrial agreements. We have 2 more to go, and we're moving well with those, looking at a lot of technology and things of that sort. And so we're doing the heavy lifting and the things that are going to make for a new reimagined PHA in the long run.
I wanted to bring it back to Ms. Cartwright. How have you seen this sort of heavy lifting? How is that translated on the ground so far? And what are your expectations, or in terms of a timeline for when people can expect to see even more things, more good things come out of Grand Bahama Health Services?
So my expectation is always in the now. And so the team that I'm working with, we know that we have to work every day as hard to change the image as we can. We do realize that things, take a little bit of time, and processes create new habits that we need to shift. And so my expectation, our team's expectation, is that we have set milestones that we are seeking to achieve. And at those milestones, we will assess and we will keep moving the target forward with the overall goal of improving the patient perception.
Can you maybe share some of maybe the first 3 major milestones that Grand Bahama Health Services is looking to achieve over the rest of this year?
Very loaded question. One for sure
to choose what's most, what's priority though?
Well, what is priority for us is making sure we have a strong community clinic service. And so this groundbreaking and the work that we're doing in this project will allow us to have a very efficient, state-of-the-art location for the people of Grand Bahama. And so that is very, very important to us. Also with that, we're looking to bring some more efficiencies to our emergency department. So we have heard the cries of the Grand Bahamian people. We do understand the concerns. It has not been neglected, and we have been working at it. And so it's our expectation that that too will be addressed.
Okay, so you mentioned the clinics, and the managing director earlier, you mentioned the sort of data that you guys are responding to. Is that part of the data that you've seen, that people need access to clinical services in communities as opposed to having to come to the main hospital.
Absolutely. And it's not just the clinical service itself, but the clinical support, the pharmacy, the laboratory services, the radiology services. So the whole suite is where we're stepping to go. But it is one step at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, that is what we are seeing. That is what the data has shown us for our people here.
Mm-hmm. Now, I know one of the issues has always been, in talking to healthcare providers and persons within the healthcare sector, is how do we get everybody to, you know, pay their portion of the bill, because that's sort of an issue. Getting people, a lot of people just want to access healthcare for free. You know, so is that, I know that that's an issue in New Providence. I want to ask the Grand Bahamians on the panel, do we see a similar issue, and how are we encouraging Grand Bahamians who are accessing public health care to also pay their fair share?
Okay, so I'll take a part of that question because it speaks to the broad PHA and how we address the conversation about compensation and reimbursement for healthcare services. Mm-hmm. But I want to assure the people of Grand Bahama that the Public Hospitals Authority does not impose cost as a barrier to accessing care. Right. Everyone has access to care. Mm-hmm. And so I want to make that implicitly clear and explicitly clear mm-hmm. for all of our listeners, that are out there. Overall, the PHA has a strategy, and the managing director can speak to that will move us forward in that direction. But in Grand Bahama, the community clinics, the Rand Memorial Hospital is accessible to all of our residents and visitors should they need health care. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think one of the most important things is we know that health care is not free. Mm. And like Hospital Administrator Cartwright said, there is a cost to every level of service. Mm. However, we do not want persons to feel that because there's a cost that they should not come and access health care. We have put some things in place that we have not done consistently over time. What do I mean by that? You come in, you come for service, there is a cost. Now, you are told at the end of the service what that bill is. If you have the ability to pay, then we ask you to pay. If you do not pay, then you also have the ability to sit down with the business office and to develop a plan for that to happen. Whatever is comfortable.
Director, if I can stop you, we want to continue your response on the opposite side of the break. Stay with us. Our conversations on the future of the healthcare on Grand Bahama Island will continue in just a moment.
Spring has sprung at Grand Bahama's happiest hotel. The Pelican Bay Resort is the perfect place to unwind and relax with family and friends. Come and check out our amazing views and our friendly staff, because there's no place better than Grand Bahama's happiest hotel. Spring has sprung at Grand Bahama's happiest hotel. The Pelican Bay Resort is the perfect place to unwind and relax with family and friends. Come and check out our amazing views and our friendly staff, because there's no place better than Grand Bahama's happiest hotel.
Welcome back. Tonight, a closer look is live from Grand Bahama Island for an in-depth look at the state of healthcare in the nation's second city, and more importantly, the way forward for Grand Bahama Health Services. Once again, I am joined by PHA Managing Director, Dr. Abinette Roll, Chairman, Mr. Andrew Edwards, Hospital Administrator at the Rand Memorial Hospital, Jessica Cartwright, and Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Freeman Lockhart. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. So, the groundbreaking is happening tomorrow. Exciting times at PHA. Let's talk about the new facility, right? Can we talk about how this new facility is going to be funded? What is the projected cost? And any timelines? The people like timelines, Dr. Roll.
So I know timelines are very important. So based on the timelines I will share.
Okay, great.
So this project is a two-phase project. However, I want to lay over that there will be no stopping in between.
Gotcha.
So we spoke about the first phase. That is the phase that we will start with, okay? And that phase involves what we call the outpatient clinic. It involves the outpatient clinic as well as a surgical suite. So the surgical suite allows persons to have surgical procedures, those persons who come on what we call day cases. So you come in, you have your procedure, it's been pre-booked, and you go home. We do recognize that in any outpatient setting, you may have patients who may have to stay over. And so those persons staying over, depending on the type of patient, will now be cared for at the Rand Memorial. So while this is going on, we're still operating the Rand Memorial as well. Also in there, we have laboratory services, and we will also have pharmaceuticals. Okay, we are moving with the first leg of what we call the inpatient element, and that will be for the maternity patient. And that is really exciting because that's specialized care. You have the OBGYN physicians as well as the trained midwives, okay? So that is expected in there. Immediately when that is finished, we move into the tertiary level, which everybody knows as the acute hospital, all right? And that is supposed to be 126 beds, and we'll have everything there that includes EMS, that's the ambulance, and all of the amenities that we need there at that level. So in the first phase that we're going to move forward with, that phase and that contract signing tomorrow will be about $34 million. Now, as we are doing this, we are programming the works based on data to ensure that we are still meeting the needs of the community, because this project started in 2016.
Right.
So we're using data now to sort of drive us to where our needs are. One of the most important things I think I'm so happy for, even in the outpatient setting, is the ability to now allow for oncology services. And I know that'll be something that's so exciting for the community here, because they would have had to travel to Nassau or abroad for that to happen. So that's where we are. The timeline for the completion of this should be the end of 2024.
Okay.
And as we get more information, we will be more than happy to lay that over to the community.
Awesome. So I want to talk about a specific demographic that need to access public health care, and that's the disabled community. What sort of steps are also being able to make to ensure that this new Freeport Health Campus is also meeting the needs of members of the community who may have a disability?
Sure. So in our design, one of the things from a code perspective, we are mandated to ensure that they are called ADA certified. And so we're moving forward with that. So you see ramps, you also see widening of corridors, widening of bathrooms, because the disabled has to have the ability to make that full circle. Our corridors are all 8 feet wide, which are very wide, that allows for that movement as well. We're going to put up in our signage, or what we call wayfinding, also for the blind person to be able to feel for the braille so that they get an understanding of what's happening with that. So in the entire design, we are trying to ensure that we are following code and attending to the needs of the disabled community at the same time.
Okay, so now let's talk about, the specific technologies. The chairman did mention, the introduction of new technologies to sort of keep healthcare in Grand Bahama on the cutting edge. Can you speak to any of the new technologies? What can persons expect when interacting, with healthcare at the new Freeport Health Campus?
Anyone in particular you want to take that?
I mean, whoever feels so inclined.
So we are moving with modern technology, just how the design is intended to be a green space, and really what we call edge as we design it, we want to make sure that it is sustainable, all right? And so everything that we're doing now is to ensure that it's EDGE ready, which is a certification to ensure that we are meeting for disaster preparedness and all of that, to ensure that there is a sustainable element in this infrastructure. And so one of the first things we're trying to move forward with is with an electronic health record. And that is important because everybody globally is moving from a paper-based to digital base. And that's important because at the end of the day, the government is moving with something what we call one patient, one file, okay? And so that's important for information sharing. And so even if you see a clinician at another facility, you then have the ability to go into the system to ensure that you're treating the patient correctly, you're not giving them a duplication of medications, etc., and you're able to ensure that there's continuity of care. So electronic records, we're very excited. That's something that's coming into the clinics now as we move to become an NHI provider. And so that's something that's happening. That's called eClinical Works, and we're working that out to ensure that we're able to get those licenses for it. We're also going to be moving with top technology. So in the operating rooms, also, as we move about in the imaging, we're moving with top-of-the-line CT. We're also looking forward to MRI. Now, that is not in the original element of the outpatient, but the entire campus is going to be outfitted with that. And there's more technology in relations with security as well. We're trying to make sure surveillance systems. So all of that we're trying to make sure is happening. Okay.
Ms. Carter, you want to
No,
comment?
I was whispering to the MD about the plans also including, opportunities for energy efficiency, everything from our exterior lighting to our potable water flushing. So the mechanics of the building will be smart from that perspective to reduce our carbon footprint and that sort of stuff. So there's a lot in the design and the build of the entire campus where we hope to recycle water and look at other opportunities to recycle products from waste, etc., to be more efficient.
Well, I want to talk to you all about the sort of economic impact, because there's always an economic component, obviously. Let's talk about the economic impact that this Freeport Health Campus is expected to have in the construction phase, in the job opportunity phase for persons entering the medical field. What are you hoping that this new Freeport Health Campus does, economically? How do you hope it is going to positively impact life for Grand Bahamians here?
So I'll speak about the employment element. I don't know if Chairman, from an employment element as it relates to our clinical, allied health, and support staff, I think we're really excited to be able to provide job opportunities. And so you are correct. Right now, globally, there is a shortage of physicians and nurses and allied health. Right now, the PHA is moving to identify the needs from very early so that we can interview, allow persons to go abroad to get additional training, as well as to do some training through our PHA Academy. And so that's what we're doing right now. In anticipation of this, in the next few weeks, you will see an advertisement coming out from the PHA that deals with trained clinical nurses to be able to support the RNs that play a pivotal role. That is a step just between the RN and then the extenders of care, which we call the PCTs. So that provides opportunities for persons in Grand Bahama to be trained. We've made available housing in Nassau to be able to support them to come for training. And those persons who will be coming who are not employed through the PHA, they will receive a stipend. So we're looking to be able to do that. Allied health, we're looking from security to housekeepers to pharmacists to laboratory technologists, to maintenance individuals. And one thing when you talk about infrastructure, you have to ensure that there are persons who are there to preventatively maintain the structure. Absolutely. So we're going to be looking for painters, persons with that general maintenance and MEP from the mechanical and plumbing aspect. And so we we are envisioning growth in terms of job opportunity for individuals. Very, very exciting. We're going to be putting on a next course for EMTs because as we grow, you're going to need those persons to be able to respond to those emergencies. So from an employment standpoint, from the clinical and those who support us, I think Grand Bahama is ripe for that level of employment.
I want to talk.
No, I was just going to say, and even from a macroeconomic standpoint, I think that this, what's getting ready to happen in Grand Bahama, the groundbreaking, the new campus, it's from a job, construction job opportunity. There's going to be hundreds of skilled persons who are going to have the opportunity to work on this project, as well as it's going to sort of lay the foundation for more touristic development in Grand Bahama, as well as even from an industrial standpoint. People are looking to Grand Bahama to invest, but one of the main obstacles is, hey, we have concern about your health infrastructure, and even second homeowners. Grand Bahama is one of those places that attracts a lot of second homeowners. There are a lot here and a lot who are still looking, but one of the concerns is health and how do I access good health care? And so hopefully we're answering that with this project.
So I want to, how can persons make themselves ready? How can they, reach out to find out more about the opportunities that are coming on stream from the employment perspective? Chairman?
In terms of, well, the employment perspective from construction standpoint, the contractor will be named tomorrow. And I'm sure that the contractor will have various means and ways that you can reach out, get yourself involved. If you're a skilled person, I would advise you to get your resume together, dust those things off, and get ready to work. I mean, the opportunity is going to be there once you have the right attitude and you're willing to get down and get some work done. And even from the standpoint that the MD talked about, for those that will be looking for, there's an email for the PHA. If you check our website, there's always job opportunities. There's things about training that's coming up. There's a PHA Academy that we haven't really touched on much here, where we are actually training those persons who are going to be a key part of us going forward and meeting the needs of the community. And so we ask you to just visit our website, get that resume together, and look for the opportunities that fit you and how you can see yourself being a part of what we're doing.
And if I could just chime in.
Absolutely.
You asked about the expectations of a new facility. And I think from a clinical perspective, the attractiveness of it should kind of present Grand Bahama on a new stage. The attractiveness to healthcare workers. Certainly for the last several years, many years now, the Grand Bahama community from an economic perspective hasn't been very attractive. And I think with the upcoming new healthcare facility and all of the other spin-off like was mentioned just a minute ago, healthcare workers returning home. The stop to the capital now wouldn't be the only stop that they would be in the back of their mind. You will have another new facility here, hopefully a brand new economy here, and the attractiveness to bring a lot of our healthcare professionals to Grand Bahama. That's one of the things I'm looking forward to, and I'm looking forward to it from the perspective that the challenges we had in the past with bringing professionals here, as you probably know, everyone came and visit. Hopefully now with the new healthcare facility, they will come and reside.
That's a very good point, because I think there has been so much talk about a brain drain that happens. We have so many talented Bahamians away, servicing other countries, servicing other communities, when they could be right back here at home, making a difference in their own communities.
So many Grand Bahamians in New Providence.
So many Grand
who would love to be in Grand Bahama if the opportunity to work presented itself.
Absolutely. Y'all know how I feel about being home. Y'all don't get me started on how I feel about being home. But back from the break, we're discussing sustainability and its role in the provision of quality healthcare services. Stay with us. We have more after this.
Spring has sprung at Grand Bahama's happiest hotel. The Pelican Bay Resort is the perfect place to unwind and relax with family and friends. Come and check out our amazing views and our friendly staff, because there's no place better than Grand Bahama's happiest hotel.
Welcome back. In 2019, Hurricane Dorian blew through the Bahamas, causing unprecedented damage. Nothing and no one was safe, not even the Rand Memorial Hospital. Now, in 2023, the conversations about how we can storm-proof our healthcare systems are even more important. My panel is back with me again, ladies and gentlemen, and we are talking sustainability. How are we storm-proofing, if that is even possible? How are we storm-proofing healthcare? So I want to talk to you guys about what steps are being taken in the construction of this new facility. And you touched on some of them in terms of sort of the environmental and the green energy, provisions that are being made. But what happens in the event of what we saw in 2019 with Hurricane Dorian? What sort of steps are being taken to make sure that we don't have a repeat of what happened at the Rand? It's a tough question, I know. Maybe Dr. Lockhart, are you interested in taking that one?
Well, as we all recall, one of the major challenges with Hurricane Dorian was flooding. Mm-hmm. And a lot of steps has gone into identifying property and the topography to ensure that we look at the elevation. And that has gone pretty much into deciding exactly where the new campus is located. Mm. It's the space it will occupy is elevated. It is not the highest elevation on the island, but it is one of the highest on the island. It certainly is higher than our present campus site. Mm-hmm. And so that plays heavily into trying to improve on the experience of Dorian.
Absolutely.
Now, nobody knows how the next hurricane is going to present.
Right.
And we can take a lot of the infrastructural changes into consideration, but still all we can hope for is to build with Category 5, Category 6 mm-hmm. in mind. Mm-hmm. We have looked clearly at flooding and hopefully at the force of Category 5 or 6. And beyond that, of course, the actual grounds of the campus. The plan is to elevate, so emergency generators, mm-hmm. everything will be even though the ground zero is already elevated, taking everything up above any hurricane storm surge. Mm-hmm. That hopefully should preserve our power supply in the immediate aftermath right. of a hurricane.
Right. I want to talk to you guys because we're talking now about the physical campus, and you mentioned how much training is going to be going on. Are there plans to really include disaster preparedness training for medical staff who are going to be at the Freeport campus, to make sure that they know how to respond and react in the event that things start going left?
Oh, yes, absolutely. That is a part of our annual preparations. That is something that we do every year. We also start the process of assessing all of our facilities from March. And so we meet, there is a very defined checklist to be able to identify things that are in place, opportunities that trees need to be trimmed, drain needs to be cleared, food supply, medical and surgical supplies, also other contingencies. So that is something that happens every year. Okay. Also, there would have been some training that just happened a few weeks ago that relates to disaster preparedness and mitigation. So that's important. So we always have some contingency in place to ensure. And sometimes the contingency is just moving from one level of the hospital to another level. And so we move from one part to the other, which is called a partial evacuation, until we can do something different. I think Dr. Lockhart would have spoken about, our propensity to flooding. And that is why, based on where we're moving to ensure that that does not happen. It's very high. And at the beginning, remember now, in a disaster, we have the least amount of patients that are in there. And so we normally start to the very top in the event there's something happening at the bottom level. And so we're doing a lot of training in relations to that to ensure that our response is correct. And we do that hand in hand with other agencies as well.
Ms. Cartwright, let's talk about the collaboration between Grand Bahama Health Services and other agencies, including, I'm going to assume, the DRA and other disaster preparedness entities within the government structure. So let's talk about what that collaboration looks like. What have those conversations been like in terms of really preparing for hurricane season, which is just around the corner?
So thank you for that question. As the managing director would have said, we have a well-defined plan for disaster internally, but most importantly, to your question, we have a very strong working relationship with NEMA in Grand Bahama and the overall NEMA umbrella to be able to feed into and obtain information to advise us as to how to respond. They've been very helpful with understanding shelters for the vulnerable, looking at where we may have to, if we have to look at evacuation of the hospital, what are our options, and assessing that for us. And so that level of partnership between NEMA, Defense Force, other agencies that are called upon to respond is very strong.
Yeah, okay. I want to talk about, and this is still in the whole realm of disaster preparedness, obviously, but the lessons that have been learned from dealing with a Category 5 storm like Dorian. Dr. Lockhart did mention some of the steps that have been taken to ensure the design and the build of the new property is going to be what it needs to be. What other lessons can you guys speak to that were learned from Dorian? How are they being implemented not only on Grand Bahama but also in New Providence?
So Dorian was a unique creature of its own. And if you look at the effect of Dorian, it was basically flooding. And so based on where you are positioned, sometimes you're limited on what you can do, because Dorian was one where sandbags would not work anywhere. I think the lesson learned for us as we move forward as an organization is when we are either acquiring property or building, that we are ensuring that it is high enough to withstand the flood as much as possible. That is a lesson that's been learned from us. And so as the PHA now moves about to get its own assets, there are some of the things that we're assessing. One of the things that we're also doing is to ensure that very early, not just before the hurricane season, that we have attended to our rules to minimize water intrusion. We're ensuring that we have 100% generation, right? Because no hospital should be out. So that means that all of our facilities ought to have a backup generator. That is definitely something we move forward to. As well as NEMS, the National Emergency Response, also having generation because they have to do that initial response. And so they are some of the lessons when it relates to ensuring that only those persons who require are in hospital, only those staff members who are in there, as it relates to medical and surgical supplies, and also ensuring that even the family islands have that. I think we've done very well. I think the issue is we have never seen a creature like that before, and it was mostly water.
Mr. Chairman, anything to add?
Not to add, but I mean, just to go back maybe to what Dr. Lockhart talked about earlier. When I first became chairman, we looked at the plans that were in place at that point for a new facility in Grand Bahama, and it was at the exact same facility location where we are now.
Right.
And it was clear that it doesn't matter what we build if people cannot access it when they need it most. And so that really played into the decision to go back to the original plans that were before and look at a higher location, a new location for the facility. knowing that we really people need to be able to access it.
Okay, so for clarity, this new Freeport Health Campus, this phase 1, is that going to be the site of Grand Bahama's future hospital? Or are we looking at a situation where we have the Freeport Health Campus as a standalone entity and the RAND will continue to operate in some capacity as you guys move forward in your planning? How is it going to work specifically?
So I think if my chairman agrees with me and in our discussions with the board, as I am so guided, so while this construction phase is going on, the RAND will be operational,
yes.
Okay? Once we have completed the tertiary level, the intent is, that's why it's called the Freeport Campus, to ensure that we have the ability to put all of our resources together as sort of ensure efficiency and not having the client all over the place, okay?
Right.
That's one of the things that we learned, that clients don't like going back and forth.
It's true.
The aim now, though, that what we are doing now with our board is to strategically talk about what the RAN can be repurposed for,
okay,
that meets the needs of this community. So while we have a state-of-the-art new tertiary and secondary level care, as well as primary health care within the outpatients and in the polyclinics throughout Grand Bahama, we are now looking to see how best we can repurpose the existing RAN to meet the needs of the Bahamian people. And so we have various things we've spoken about that could possibly happen there. And I just give examples and discussions. Nothing has been finalized. We now have an aging population. We now talk about that interim care of those patients who do not have to be in hospital, but they are not well enough to go home.
Right.
How do you care for them in there? Is there something that we can do there? We talk about expansion of rehab services and all of that. So as we look at that, you will hear more from myself and the board that speaks to the repurposing of the existing RAND.
I really like that. I like that idea of the interim care, because I think what happens is a lot of persons don't know what to do with their aging parents or elderly people who, like you said, don't necessarily require hospital care, but also still need to be monitored and looked at. I think this has been such a really interesting conversation so far, but I want to ask each of you, as executives of the Public Hospitals Authority and Grand Bahama Health Services, if there was something that you could say to the public about where you are headed, what would it be? And I'd like to give each of you the opportunity to answer that question. I don't know who wants to start. I know it's a tough question. Maybe Megan, call it Miss Time.
It's kind of like a Miss Universe question.
This is your moment, to don't say world peace.
Yeah. One of the things I want to leave resonating with the people of Grand Bahama is that the PHA is seeking to answer the concerns and the cries that have been voiced and that have not gone unheard. And so all that we are doing is a very focused effort to improve the level of services that you receive. Every patient has a right to dignity and care, and every patient has a right to quality health care. And so the PHA is very focused and deliberate in that. And if I could leave that with the people of Grand Bahama, it is to watch the PHA's actions in the next 12 to 24 months to understand, and hopefully you will see that what we are doing is setting up Grand Bahama to have that quality, dignified health care that I just spoke about.
Nice. Dr. Lockhart?
What I would like to leave the public with is that where we are heading is a comprehensive service, a comprehensive healthcare service. You alluded to it a minute ago when you said that, I think the managing director also mentioned it, persons seeking healthcare having to go from A to B to C. That is something that this new healthcare campus, from the onset, from phase 1, that is something that we aim to correct. The clinic aspect in Freeport proper right now, in order to access the various different clinical service, you have to move to at least 3 facilities. And with phase 1 of this healthcare campus, all of those will be combined under one roof. So right from the beginning, the Grand Bahama community should start to see and feel, some of the relief that this new healthcare campus is intended to bring.
Mr. Chairman?
Just want to leave that we're serious, we're focused, we are really all about the business of restoring people's faith and trust in the public healthcare system. I think that has been shaken a lot over the years, and so we are very serious about that. Also, we're asking the community out there to sort of be the change they want to see. This is their healthcare system. We have now we're engaging people in terms of our PHA Foundation, where we want the business community to come and help to be a part of the change. It's Nurses Month. Maybe they want to assist with, reach out to H.A. Cartwright and assist with some of her nurses and making them happy and showing their appreciation, because these are the same people that are going to tend to you when you're most vulnerable.
Yeah.
And lastly, I'd like to let the people of Grand Bahama know that they've been hearing about it for a long time, and this is real. This is not just more talk again. This is real. This is going to happen. There's not just going to be a ceremonial shovel in the ground. There will be more shovels and tractors and everything else to follow.
Before we go to the managing director, I want to piggyback off something you said in terms of the PHA Foundation, because I think that's a very important point. People know that healthcare is expensive. They understand that we need a certain level of care, and that requires money. So how can members of the business community locally and throughout the country really step up in a way that is able to assist, not just the PHA, but Grand Bahama Health Services specifically, as we move toward this new level of care?
Right. So we have a director of foundations and community relations, Ms. Alana Major. And if you were to reach out to her, she would coordinate with Ms. Cartwright in terms of the specific needs in Grand Bahama and where they can be of most help, and we will facilitate, coordinate, and make sure it happens so that it benefits all of us at the end of the day.
Awesome. I guess you have the final word.
First of all, I just want to say on behalf of myself and the chairman and the board to thank the people of Grand Bahama for their patience. I want to tell you from my voice to your ear that we are committed to make the change. We are committed to ensure that you have not only a proper healthcare facility, but you have access to it. That's very important as we move forward, and everybody keeps talking about universal health, access to care and that coverage. This is a part of it. This is the beginning. As we move forward with catastrophic care, you'll hear all about that. I just want you to know that we are committed to the change. And I look forward to working with everybody as we now, in the next couple months, see the reality of the work that we've been doing. And so that's what I'll say.
Okay, so I guess my final final question, ladies and gentlemen, is how excited are you about tomorrow? We breaking ground.
I'm excited. I don't know if I can sleep tonight.
I know the chairman says, this is going to be, it's going to be groundbreaking, it's going to be tractors, it's going to be movement. How excited are you guys?
Well, I'm excited, but I think the rest of the team here is probably even more excited because they've been doing the hours and hours and hours of work to make it happen.
Yeah.
And it will be for them just a culmination of the hard work that they've been doing. And so we thank them on behalf of the board for the hard work they've been doing, and the people of Grand Bahama are going to finally get what they justly deserve.
Go ahead.
I don't want to miss out this piece. So like the chairman said, you know why I'm so excited? It's not only the groundbreaking tomorrow, it is actually the awarding of the contract. So that's action in itself.
Now, I haven't asked who is being awarded the contract, but now that you've stepped into that, you mind telling us? Can we know ahead of time?
I wonder if we should wait until tomorrow for the excitement.
You can tell the people we live. We're in the moment. Why not?
So the contract has been awarded to ABC Construction, and well known, and we had a clear process for that, and we're very excited to be working with Mr. Geiger in relation to that, and we'll hear more about it tomorrow.
Awesome. We're looking forward to it. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for being here. This has been a very enlightening conversation. You've provided such great insights, and I know Grand Bahamians will be watching. Y'all know we will be watching to see these plans come to fruition. So thank you to all of you who have been tuned in tonight. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being here. You've been a wonderful panel. And stay tuned for our upcoming coverage of the groundbreaking ceremony. Next Monday night, we will have a 2-part episode featuring the groundbreaking event and so much more. Till next time, Bahamas, I'm Aravina Apia. Good night, everyone.